your life now. Okay. Hi, everyone. We're so sorry for the technical hitch there. Thank you so much for watching and welcome to our show today. Is that okay, everyone?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Can you- Thank you so much for joining in. You are tuned onto the Voice of Hope Media with Eng. And today is actually the first episode or the first edition of Let's Give the Voice here at the Voice of Hope Media for 2021. And today we are giving a voice to when God blesses someone with autism and the person has to face the pandemic. So, all of us here, we are all parents of autistic children, and we want to welcome you all for joining us today. For our special guest today, we have Patience and we have Jackie. Unfortunately, Tania couldn't join us because she's a little bit poorly. So, like I said at the beginning, you are tuned onto the Voice of Hope Media, where we educate, where we empower, we inspire, and we give hope to individuals facing complex and challenging issues in life, including special educational needs. So, you are here in a safe space, encouraged to speak up, speak out, knowing you will be heard and you won't be judged or stigmatized. So, this is a platform where we look at those topics which most individuals consider sensitive or too emotional to talk about. And most individuals will think that because of the nature of these topics, they are supposed at the time forgetting to know that these issues affect individuals, human beings, just like you and I. So if any topic can be discussed, why not the taboo ones? Why not the sensitive ones? Why not the emotional ones? And autism happens to just be them. If you've tuned in here today for the first time, and this is your first time hearing about autism is a neurological developmental condition, and I always like that it is an invisible neurological developmental condition that affects individuals. It affects them in the way they interact, in the way they communicate, in the way they behave towards their peers, towards their families, towards their environment, and it also affects the way they process sensory issues. There's a common saying that goes, once you've met one autistic individual, you've met just that one autistic individual, which means no two individuals with autism are the same. You cannot say because A is autistic, B is autistic, they are all the same. No, they do develop differently, and autism affects them differently. So today we are going to give a voice to when God blesses you with an autistic child and having to face the pandemic. Actually came about because around December I was in conversation with my godson. He's 9, and who is 6. And they asked me because my son is autistic and he's feeding and he's verbal. So he makes a lot of noises, he makes a lot of which if another child is not used to them, they don't understand why he's making these noises or the sounds. So to them, they were wondering, why did God make my son this way? The word actually which they used was, why did God make that kid? Why is his voice weird? Why is he not using words? So that's one of the areas we are going to look into today. We are going to have a brief discussion on why will God give one an autistic child or a child that has a disability or any form of special needs. We are going to talk about that and to look at autism and God only giving you and now because our almighty coronavirus and the pandemic, we are having to face the pandemic with an autistic child. Only it's challenging having to take care of an autistic child, depending on the severity they are at. And then having to be parenting an autistic child and then facing the pandemic. To me, it seems more like a double jeopardy. But we are here today and we are smiling, so which means we must be doing a great job. We must be doing something good to have gone through the pandemic. It's more than a year now, and nothing is not it's not really getting better, and we are constantly in lockdown. So our discussion today, we are going to look into to have a brief discussion on why, on individual basis, why would you think that God gives each individual an autistic child? So we are going to start straight away. You are watching The Voice of Hope, and the edition is Let's Give It. It's broadcast on Facebook and also on YouTube. So if you miss watching the live show, you could always come back and watch here on Facebook or on our YouTube channel. So we dive in straight away with Jackie. You are welcome and please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Jackie Pilgrim. I'm a mom of an amazing young adult who is on the more severe end of the autism spectrum. Um, Technically, yes, he is nonverbal, but he can say words and sentences from time to time. He's
Yeah.
got several neurological issues that make it difficult for him to remember words or be able to say words more than once sometimes. Um, I am I work from home, obviously during because of the pandemic. I'm a writer, and I'm also an advocate. I serve on several boards, NAMI being one of them. And what I really want to do is give voice to the people, particularly people who are on the autism spectrum and their families and loved ones, and people who suffer from mental illness, whether it be profound mental illness or whether it be because of stress or trauma or something, on the shorter term. I'm particularly interested in giving voice to people who are on the spectrum that experience mental illness, because oftentimes it's not acknowledged, or it's hard to define the lines between mental illness and autism. So I am very happy to be here today, and I hope that I can give some
Yeah.
encouraging words to all of you.
So much, Jack. And special thank you for accepting to be on the show and also for doing the great job of being a voice to autistic individuals and family. Because for the past years, where since when my child was diagnosed, some we can really be forgotten. When I say we, I mean parents who have a child, and at times you have to fight for basically everything: support, services, education, and what have you. So it's really a great doing being a voice for them. Thank you so much. Welcome,
Thank you.
Patience, and please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patience Abonge and I'm based in the UK. I've got a son who is 8 years old and he's autistic he's under the spectrum and he's non-verbal, but sometimes he speaks like he says few words and talks in echolalia. So yeah, and I'm equally a support worker and I work with autistic adults. So I am working around autism and using the experience from my son or the experience of raising an autistic child. So yeah, I'm here today to give it a voice, especially for those who have just gotten the diagnosis for their kids, or you never know if you're still to have a child someday. No one asks for an autistic child. So anyone out there can, get some encouraging words from us. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Patience. Yes, and it's a great job you are doing, having to parent your son, also having to support other autistic individuals there. It's great. blessing and it's a great experience to really have, because I spent 1 year supporting autistic adults, and it was really you learn quite a lot, which you can use that experience to help your own son as well. And once more, today we are giving a voice to when God blesses one with an autistic child and we are having to face the pandemic. Normally, when you have an autistic child, life can never be the same again. It changes you tremendously in so many positive ways. Unfortunately, most often people tend to look at the negative aspect of it. I can't actually think of how my life would have been without my child who is autistic. Without him here in the house is dull. There's no laughter, there's no giggling, no free hugs and kisses. So you can you can imagine. So we are going to continue. I will straight into our question. So let's talk a little bit on why God blesses one with an autistic child. Jackie, can I start with you?
Sure. I think there are several things that come to mind when I thought about that question over the years. One being just the fact that God blessed me with a child that required so much of me, required so much patience, time, energy. And I think about my childhood because one of the unique things about my situation is I'm actually on the spectrum as well. I'm diagnosed with Asperger's disorder, which I did not receive a diagnosis until I was 46. So, being that I have a child that's autistic and I'm on the spectrum myself, I have a unique understanding of how he processes and how he sees things and why he does things. And it reminded me a lot of when I was a child. So I felt like God sent me this child to bless me with someone that I could love and receive true, genuine love from, and to have a better understanding of myself, which will help me be able to help this child. Another reason I think also is we understand God as love. And when God presented himself initially, it was more about healing people so people would believe that he was God. And now I believe that people are experiencing disabilities so that we can still see God. So I see God all throughout my life when I see my son and the challenges that he has to face and what life is like for him. Yet he still smiles and he laughs and he gives and he loves unconditionally. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and it's a huge blessing to be able to see God in every aspect of our lives because of the autism and the other disabilities that we both experience.
Well, thank you so much. That's a very brilliant way of looking at it, seeing God through your children, knowing that God is love. And
Yes,
that's really amazing. Thank you so much for that. And
you're
you,
welcome.
you also said God giving you an autistic child had, has given you opportunity to better understand yourself. I think I will also say as well. Last night, of the challenging nights where we get kicked and slapped and then being kissed and hugged at the same time. But
Yeah,
at some point, I was low, but I quickly bounced back and continued with whatever thing I was doing. Then I kept wondering, but how come that I easily get back after all that has happened? Then I actually realized that there must be something very special, because in us we know that whatever they are doing, they don't really mean it. Because
mhm,
if they could understand that the kicking it really hurts, they wouldn't do it. And then with the love that we have for them and with the love that we have for God, knowing that He is a precious being, we realize that we would always turn around and life continues. Thank you
yes.
so much for your explanation. And Pei, what about you? I know we
One,
had talked about this on my
who is on the
Facebook,
door?
on my profile, but I would like
Courtney,
to
I'm in
hear
the
your.
meeting, please. Sorry, the kids. Um, before I'll just give a brief
Yeah,
story
over.
about my son. Yeah. my son being the first, as every mother, we are excited to have a first kid and have that experience as a mother. So when I had my son, I was having all that excitement to have a normal child, as everyone would call it. And when I realized that he wasn't behaving like every other child around me, I was at first very broken and had those regrets and asking, like, why me, and why me? But I had to come to self-realization and accept, like, God doesn't give special things to everyone. He, like, not when something is special, it's not everyone who has it. Special people have got special gifts. So me experiencing another child with another characteristics and with his unique abilities, that to me is a blessing, because not everyone has that opportunity to, experience what autism is all about, especially their uniqueness, because they've got unique character traits that you and I have not got. So definitely, to me, my son is a blessing, and I believe God chose me because He knows I've got the strength to bring him up. Because if I didn't have the strength, He would not have given me my son. So to me, that's a blessing. What's the matter? I can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also and I also know. Sorry about that, guys. And I also know that God creates each and every one of us in His own image, and we are all unique in our own special ways, and also very different. Even though we are all human beings, we are completely different, unique with our abilities and our different capabilities. So that was one of the reasons I actually gave to my godson. But I knew there was something more that they wanted to know. And I do believe that it's really good for us parents to be able to create that avenue, that opportunity to teach other children who are not autistic or who do not have a disability, so that they should have a better understanding of what autism is, so that they should be able to interact and communicate with their peers who are autistic. Because if they could understand autism now, then in the future, at our age, they will be better off than we are today. There will be less ignorance, there will be more knowledge about it, and there will be more acceptance rather than us fighting for acceptance, fighting for the voice. We will have so many people in the future being aware of what autism is, and not only being aware, being able to support or to recognize an autistic individual in the community, wherever they are, or even being able to accept and support their own siblings as well. Then we are going to move on to the next question, which has to do with the pandemic. Coronavirus came and took all of surprise. We were shocked, we panicked, treated. In fact, we all go through the stages of grief, where I'm sure we went through the denial stage. We were angry that you cannot go out whenever you want. We equally bargained with God that if you can just send away this coronavirus, maybe we will start doing things better. Maybe we will start doing things different from what we used to do things before. And so many of us would have been hit by depression. And then finally, we maybe not everyone has accepted, but at least at this point in time, coronavirus is 1 year old, and I think most of us already accepted. It's brought its own changes. A normal life for a parent with an autistic child usually somehow seems like an isolated life, because they have limited groups or limited places where they go to. But coronavirus has added onto it, and the isolation seems to worsen. So I'm going to put it out to you. How has it affected you? How has the coronavirus impacted you as a and your child and the care that you provide to your child? Victor, I'd like to start with you.
You're
Yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. Um, like you said, the pandemic was not expected. We didn't expect it. No one saw it coming, so no one was prepared for it. Like we were all in shock and in denial, like you said. But honestly, personally, I've been through challenges in life that I am mentally ready somehow for challenges, especially the pandemic. The pandemic did not really, though it wasn't expected, it really didn't take me by surprise because the fact that we're being locked down is something that I'm kind of used to. I've experienced something like a lockdown before and more severe. So being locked down in the house was a challenge, but I didn't see it coming, but I embraced it just like, and I had an open mind to begin with because I was like, if I sit there to feel bad, sorry for myself, it's not going to help my mental health. So I had to, first of all, come with an open mind and try to look for positive ways of dealing with that pandemic. First of all, because if I wasn't in the right mind, I would not be able to do anything or be with the kids, or especially my son at that time where you cannot even go out, you cannot play. All you have is upstairs, downstairs, kitchen, the corridors and stairs. And yeah, it was very difficult. So especially going out, and it was tough, or it's still tough. So yeah, that equally helped me to bond more with my son because every day they go to school and they are there with the teachers. You actually don't have that opportunity to know a lot what's happening in school. But God, again, like we always say, He blesses us. He gave us the opportunity to, stay at home and have that time with them again and spend more time and know them more. And yeah, to me, it was kind of a bonding moment for us, or for me, to be at home with my son. But on a challenging side, to stay at home 24/7 with them, he's got a lot of energy. So sometimes he needs to just go out there and run it off. But you're there locked up in the house, you can't do anything, especially rushing to the shop, which is so difficult on a day-to-day basis. And with that, not touching stuff, making sure you cannot touch stuff because you're not sure about corona, it was a very, very tough one for me because he doesn't like you restricting him. He likes to run around in the shops and sometimes bump into people. So it was really tough to go in the shop, try to restrain him from touching stuff because you're not sure about the things he's touching and all of that. But at the same time, raising a child with autism is strength. You've been through difficult moments whereby a pandemic definitely is not something that is going to put you that down. So yeah.
Are you
Okay,
waiting
thank
for
you.
me to say something?
Thank you so much, Pei, for that explanation. Yes, it's been a challenging moment, but when we look at yeah, so when we look at the pandemic in overall, we've probably gone through more challenging issues, but we take each day as it comes. Yeah, and over to you, Jackie. What about you? What are some of the challenges you faced, and what are some that your child has faced as well?
Okay. Well, our experience has been actually more positive when it comes to having to be careful
Can you hear me?
about being in contact.
Over to you, Jackie.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jackie.
Okay, thank you. So it's been it's actually been a little bit of a blessing for us, but I'll give you a little bit of history. I had Hunter around 7 months,
I
and
can hear
when
you.
my husband and I brought him, You can't hear me?
I think she comes after we're speaking.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Jackie.
Okay. All right. So, um, as I was saying, I
Yes.
had okay, good. So I had my son at 7 months. So he was in a hospital for 3 months, and when my husband and I brought him home, he was very fragile. I'm used to having to be particularly careful and not exposing him to things. At least that's the way we spent the first 3 years of his life. And we enjoyed the freedoms after that as his health got better. So when the pandemic came, it wasn't really too terribly different. I homeschooled my son, so I was used to having him with me at all times. We went everywhere together. I took him to work with me. We never slowed down. We were always doing things. So the only real difference we experienced with the lockdown is just being home together a lot and not being able to go out and do things. I was really afraid for my son initially, just because of the simple fact that he'll wash his hands when you tell him to wash his hands, but he might touch things and he
Mm-hmm.
may have to touch his mouth or whatnot, which was extremely scary. I didn't really worry about him wearing the mask because my son he learns things like that pretty fast. So he adjusted actually much better than I thought that he would. He took it all in stride. He's really careful about touching things. He still fusses a little bit about having to wash his hands, but I take extra precautions. Even when grocery shopping, I live in the United States, so I don't know what it's like there for you, but we can order in a lot of our groceries and whatnot, which I do, which saves us from having to go out. I still do run out to the grocery store periodically, but anything that we bring into the home, I wipe
Yeah.
down, sterilize everything before I put it away, so I don't have to worry about him touching it and then eating or whatever. Um, the only signs of difficulty we've actually had so far, I would say probably about the 8th month, we got a little tired of seeing each other in the house. So I would find ways for us to entertain ourselves together and separately, and trying to be in separate corners of the house that way so we don't have to hear each other and see each other all the time, which helps some. And my son, he is able to be home for short periods of time, so I could run to like the local grocery store and give him 15, 20 minutes to himself, which he really appreciated. So that kind of thing works well. It hasn't really been a stress on us. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I don't mind being home. My son, he is a lot more social, but as long as he has things that to stimulate him at home, work that he can do, school work, uh, being online, enjoying entertainment on TV and surfing YouTube, that kind of thing, and just being able to enjoy each other and sing and laugh and do whatever. And I've been very busy doing work, so with that, it's not that far from what we are accustomed to doing, with exception to the fact that we're usually home instead of going out more.
Okay. Wow. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. One of the difficulties we faced was because my son was always he was used to going to school Mondays to Fridays. Then he couldn't instantly he go to school and holidays. And going out for walks usually is one of his things over outings, which and he will occasionally like on or weekends go into the shops. So we go in and he maybe buys his packet of sweets and things, but it wasn't happening anymore. So there came a time where he would request to go to schools for all the 7 days in a week. So it was a bit quite challenging because he could not understand. But I think with time he got to understand that everyone has to be at at home. So we were not going to have a very long chat today, but we still have about two short questions to go. So if you had to give a suggestion or an advice to parents to so that they should be able to cope well or better during this period, what would be your advice, Jackie?
Well, my advice would, number one, to be able to, if you're used to your child going to school and you find that they're home, take the opportunity to really get to know your child, because oftentimes There are things that the child does at the school that we may not necessarily always see at home. And I don't know, appreciate that time to bond, get to know them, let them get to know you, and be creative in your problem solving. If you see that something's going on, try to find ways to engage the child in different ways. Utilize what you have. If you have technology and you're able to reach out to other people, maybe get groups that your child can be involved in, even if they're just kind of sitting and listening, and make it kind of like a classroom situation for them. Also, be able to have different activities that they can do in different areas of the house. Also, consider lighting. Try to open up windows and doors if you can to get as much natural light in the house, which helps the brain kind of deal with being in the same space. If you have the light and it's not dark, if you're not in the same room, if you're not working in the same room, it kind of breaks up your day, and it helps to deter depression. Because oftentimes, if people work in their rooms, socialize in their rooms, do everything in their room, then it kind of gets to them. So you want to move about the house. You want to spend some outdoor time if you have a yard, backyard that they can do things outdoors as well as indoors. And just, like I said, just be creative. Find things in the house that you can do together, and also help them to
Yeah.
understand that you need time to do your work if you're having to work from home as well. Also, I encourage you to get help from friends and family to help you engage your kids through social media and through devices and technology if you can, and with ideas. It's been a pretty big help for
Yeah,
us.
thank you so much for that.
Hmm.
What about you, Pay?
To be honest, Jackie has covered almost every advice that yeah, that's true. You've covered so much that I would like to say. So to be honest, I would say I've learned from your advice that if there's anyone out there watching that has got an autistic kid, I believe that's going to help us all. So yeah, I would lean on your advice as well.
Okay. I think things
All
like
right.
this also
Thank you
help.
so much. And one of our last, yeah, go on, Jackie.
No, I was just saying, just avenues like this, like being able to talk and share and to meet other parents who have autistic children, just being able to hear the stories is a huge help and know that we're not alone.
Mm.
That's brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much. I I actually read somewhere, so someone actually said the rate of autistic the percentage of autistic individuals is actually increasing now. So which means maybe every day or every month there's at least one autistic child being diagnosed in the community. I'm sure during this pandemic we've had many friends with autistic children. So what message of hope would you give them, being that they've just newly had the diagnosis for their child? Bay, what about you? What do you think?
First of all, I want to say not everyone has had that diagnosis. And first of all, you have to be very, very keen and vigilant with your child. You might want to, or if it's your first time, if you're being a first time mom, you might not pick out the clues to know your child is autistic. And so you have to be very, very, very open minded once you get that diagnosis because it's hard. If I say it's easy for you to just accept the fact that you're being told your child is autistic, then I'm lying to you. It's very, very hard to come to that acceptance and, accepting that this is it and all you need to do is just to love your child and understand them because understanding your child is very, very important. If you cannot understand your child, then you don't expect the outside world to understand your child. And because you don't understand your child, every time someone says something negative or out of ignorance, it's going to get into your head and it's going to make you feel so bad. But if you know your child, if you understand your child, then whatever anyone says or whatever, or how they look at your child, is not going to, matter to you, because you know your child best. So my advice to you, or whosoever has had a diagnosis that their child is autistic, is to take the time to know your child and forget about what the world has got to say about your child, because no one asks for a child out there. No one asks for any child to be born. But like we said, God blesses you with a child. God blesses you with a special need child, and God blesses you with an autistic child. So acceptance, love, and understanding is all you need for you and for your child.
Thank you so much, Patience, for that response. There's someone, Esther. So she just said, "Your story is mine," and another lady, Oludayo, she says, "Understanding and connecting early is vital after the diagnosis," which is very, very important. Thank you so much for your comments, guys. And Jackie, over to you. What message of hope would you give to parents who have recently received a diagnosis for their child?
Well, number one, I think parents should think of themselves for a moment. Once how once they get that diagnosis, to get in touch with their feelings about the diagnosis, acknowledge those feelings, and then work towards getting out of that, because you want to have a healthy mind, a healthy mind state when it comes to dealing with the child. There's challenges that are coming your way that you don't know about, but if you can do, as Patience said, just focus on the fact that this is your child. They are a human being. They're not a walking diagnosis. Really show them love and enjoy them. Enjoy them at whatever level that they can enjoy you. Take them places, do things, read to them. Don't compare your child to anyone else. Look at your child as the individual that they are and appreciate everything that they do. And I also encourage you to get in touch with other parents that have children, and the children doesn't have to necessarily have autism, but maybe have a child that has some other kind of disability, and just be able to support each other and celebrate each other and your children when they meet their milestones, whenever they meet them, and just embrace every little thing about your child. And also realize that instead of just looking at the diagnosis, understand that the child has a lot of things like you and the parent and other family members. So there's a whole human being there that you need to learn and appreciate, and then figure out how the autism is affecting them. One other thing also, especially when it comes to behaviors, is try not to focus so much on only disciplining with behaviors, because when you have a nonverbal child, oftentimes their behavior is a very big part of their language. So try to
Mhm.
learn their language and to see what it is that they're trying to say, to learn about things that may be overstimulated or understimulated. So get the basic information and use that basic information as a guide to help you
Yeah.
understand how autism affects your child as an individual, and go from there.
Thank you
And
so much.
be patient with yourself in the process.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. So you said embrace everything about your child. Do not
Mhm.
compare your child. That, I should say, that has been one of my superpowers. Do not compare, yes,
Your
because if
child,
you
yeah.
compare, you won't even be able to take care of your own self and your
Mm-hmm.
child as well. And you also said appreciate everything that your child does. And there's this quote by Claire Scoville. It says, "Don't think that there is a different child better that there's a different or a better child than the one you have
Right.
in front of you, or that there's a child hiding behind the autism." She says in her quote that this is your child. Love the child in front of you, encourage his strengths, celebrate his quirks, way you would with any other child.
Yes.
And even though you may have to work harder in some of the areas, but she says that is the goal. And I'll say this to all the as well. A child, appreciate whatever they do, embrace their differences, are the way they are. As I always say, it's a process. It takes time, but it will come. You will get there. I know a parent reached to me a few ago, and she said she's still struggling. It's not long. She had a diagnosis for her child. She's struggling and she doesn't know when acceptance will ever come. All I told her that do not rush it. It comes with time. It comes with you accepting, looking at the child in front of you, that that is the child you have, not the one you thought you were going to have. So this applies to every parent out there who has an autistic child or any child with any form of disability. We always have our expectations, but as I always say, God's ways are not ways. So he may give us what we're expecting. He gives us. Do we say no? Or do we abandon it and run away? No, we don't. We stay right there. We accept our child. We accept our children. We appreciate them. We love them. We try to understand them, and then acceptance will come eventually. So we now come to the end of our show. But before we go, we've been giving a voice to when God is one with an autistic child. And at the same time, you have to face the pandemic. We don't run away because there's basically you cannot you there's nowhere to run to. We cannot run away and abandon our children. We have to stay right there and take care of them. So if there's anyone out there watching and you've recently received a diagnosis for your child, reach out like Patience and Jackie, and they said, get in touch with other parents. All of us here are parents of autistic children. And at least I would say we have some experience, haven't we? I have 15 years, and Jackie has
21 years.
experience with our own children and patients as parents. Yes, that's a long time. That's a whole lot of experience. At times, you may be approaching another parent not because you need a cure or you want another parent to just snap their fingers and make that autism to disappear from your child. You are approaching another parent because you just want to hear that words. I'm here for you. I understand you because I am there. I'm in that situation and I understand exactly what you are going through. I will hold your hand and we can go through this together with the challenges and accepting our children just the way they are. So, guys, thank you so much for honoring our invite today. And I look for having more conversations on autism. We here at the Voice of Hope Media, we intend to have these conversations on autism from now till April, where we celebrate when we celebrate the Autism Awareness Month. So we will still come back again and discuss about more on autism and other aspects of autism as well. Thank you, thank you, and I wish you all a blessed weekend. And thank you so much for everyone who tuned in and watched and contributed. So share and invite your friends to like our page and subscribe to our channel. And thank you so much for listening. And we will see you again next week.
I think it's breaking.
I think so too. Well, I've certainly enjoyed meeting you, Patience. I hope